A new shocking poll from Harvard-Harris is revealing a startling decline in American support for Israel, highlighted by the finding that a majority, 60% of young Americans aged 18 to 24, now support Hamas over Israel. Well, human rights activist Josh Ahrens joins us now. Josh, what was your reaction to this poll?
Raj, this is huge. It's terrifying, and it's something that we really, really need to pay attention to, because it means that not only a significant percentage, but a majority of Americans under 25 support Hamas, which means they support violence, they support rape, they support kidnapping, they support murder. To get a political result that you want, that is absolutely terrifying. And I think it's just a preview, because right now it's on an issue that seems to be half a world away. But what about when all of that attitude is turned towards issues closer to home?
Mm-hmm. That's to me the shocking thing is I don't think, it's funny. People that are quote unquote more involved, people in the West Bank, people in other parts of the Middle East, even people in Gaza seem to have a more negative view of Hamas than people in the United States and on these college campuses. It is really, I just don't think people really understand what Hamas is, what the Muslim Brotherhood is, what they stand for. The opening line of the opening charter of Hamas said, quote, is where Israel will exist and continue to exist until Islam obliterates it. Now, if you think the Muslim Brotherhood and these organizations like Hamas will stop with the Jewish people, I think that's naive and irresponsible. It's shocking. But also another poll came out from Quinnipiac, and the Times of Israel said this about it. Let's see. 37% of Americans sympathize more with the Palestinians, while 36% favored the Israelis. The finding marked an all-time high for the Palestinians and a record low for Israelis since the poll began asking the question in 2001. So the world is turning its back against Israel. What do you make of it, Josh?
I think the framework of saying that you have to have sympathy for one side or the other, or one group or the other, is already just a recipe for a false conclusion, because what's good for Palestinians is good for Israelis. And I think there are a lot of people around the world who are hoping we just keep narrow focusing on pitting each other against the other side, instead of looking at who's really responsible for this conflict and who's benefiting from this conflict. Let's talk about the international community and the NGOs involved with that have made millions upon millions stolen aid money that was supposed to go to the Palestinian people that never made it. Let's talk about the corrupt media that pushes these anti-Semitic narratives that turn people against Israel and really have been used to manipulate young people in particular towards all sorts of causes that are anti-West, anti-Israel, and really anti-anything that is good for young people as they begin to build their lives. There really is a battle for the minds of young people, and they need to be aware that this anti-Semitic content that is being manipulated to use their sympathy for Palestinians doesn't actually end up helping Palestinians at all. In fact, it makes their lives worse and worse, because Hamas just becomes more and more bold.
So, obviously, the big news to me as someone in the media that is just being totally swept under the rug is the images of emaciated kids coming from Gaza. It's not that there isn't enormous suffering of the population, the civilian population in Gaza, but then why are you using these photos, like the New York Times and everything in between, that that these kids have long-standing medical issues? I think someone, I don't know, muscular dystrophy. I don't remember the exact diagnosis of some of these kids, but it's documented. It's well known. So why are you intentionally putting on the front page of every newspaper these kids that have all these pre-existing conditions? To me, which actually does a disservice to the actual suffering, because then it's just this confusion. It's like, well, wait a second. If the 10 or 12 most photographed kids in this whole PR campaign are proven to not be what you say, then how do we know what is true? And so, Josh, I think that's what makes your voice so valuable, is because I know there's going to be the haters in the comments that are going to say genocide this, genocide that, or that, Israel can do no wrong. And obviously there's a middle ground. But there's just so much confusion because, right, you have these people that are being portrayed to do all these things, and then it turns out to not to be. It's just there is a PR mind war campaign happening right now, and obviously Israel is losing it badly. But what are maybe a few things? Obviously, you've been to Israel at least 30 times, I think, at this point. And again, that includes the Palestinian territories, numerous times. I've been with you to all corners of the West Bank. What are some, maybe a couple points that you find helpful to add to this discussion, just to walk people back from the crazy town lies that are swirling around that people are buying? Here's the thing. Even allowing a nuanced conversation is going to upset people. I get that. But what are some nuanced context that you think is important to have to this, to add to this discussion?
Yeah, I think your example, Raj, of how the media takes children with health issues and then puts them up on the front page and claims that this is somehow Israel's fault is a perfect example of how Palestinian children in particular are only useful to the media when they can be used as props to demonize Israel. Because the backstory is that Hamas was elected in 2005. Israel had nothing to do with that. It was a democratic election by the Palestinian people, and they have been brutalizing the Palestinians ever since. And so you have to be able to put that back into the narrative to understand how we got to where we are today. There's nothing Israel can do to make Hamas not who they are and who they say they are. It's an extremely demonic, hateful group that is bent on destroying not only Israel and the Jewish people, but also all Christians. If you look at the Christians being attacked in Africa and the Middle East, they are groups that are also affiliated with Hamas. And so there's a war going on for the minds of young Americans, and it is to turn them against the US, the West, and so on. And so we're seeing that now a majority are siding with the group that stands for death, for murder, for kidnapping, for holding hostages, and doing so in order to get what they want politically. And this group is telling us that they think that that's okay, and we need to sit up and take notice and make sure we are reaching out to young people and helping them navigate really this false reality that is created by this constant anti-Semitic content that's being pushed out to them.
Josh, I appreciate your time, my friend.
Appreciate you, Raj.